When Asha finally awakens you, you have no sense of time whatsoever. You don't know if you've been asleep for days or hours or just a few minutes. Stepping out of the boat and onto the shore, you see a slanting sheet of light that appears fan-shaped off in the distance. You can see nothing beyond that light, but as you and Asha bound quickly across, approaching the rim of the rock floor, you see the light is streaming in from below as an immense break that stretches across your path. It appears to be limitless, bottomless, and springing up from what seems to be a fissure in the earth. You walk a bit farther and stand on the brink of the chasm, staring out into the brilliant, shimmering light. The light doesn't dazzle your eyes. Rather, it possesses an indescribable beauty, illuminating everything in all directions. If love could take form, you believe this light would be that form. As you peer over the edge, wondering what you will do next, Asha says,
"Below us is a hollow in the earth, and the light is actually reflecting up from the space below, and that's where we're headed." "Amelia, look!" says Asha, pointing. You turn in the direction Asha indicates and see a ship covered in ice and snow, floating in the distance, its sails full as it moves swiftly in the wind. "Is that a mirage?" you say, filled with wonder. "No, it's real. Everything on Earth has an imprint in another place, and every event is recorded."
"But how are we seeing a ship?"
"Well, matter is reproduced in a so-called vacancy. What you see is like unseen pages where all events are recorded. As that ship sailed over the ocean above us, it disturbed a current of energy and left an impression, sort of like a holographic image of the ship on a zone beneath it that's parallel with the spot where we are."
"We're seeing a holographic version of that ship? That sounds crazy."
"No more crazy than things are thoughts, or the idea of subatomic particles that can be waves and then turn into particles depending on your focus."
You laugh, relieved to be distracted from the leap of faith you're about to take.
"Are you ready to jump?"
says Asha, smiling and holding out her hand. Your heart is in your throat as you grasp Asha's hand and say, "I'm ready," as you step off the cliff together. You throw your arms around Asha, fearing you might lose each other as you fall into the abyss, and then close your eyes tightly, afraid to see what is coming.
"Open your eyes," says Asha encouragingly. "You have nothing to fear."
You peek out of one eye and then open both eyes.
"You can loosen your grip. I promise you won't lose me,"
says Asha, laughing. "Oh, sorry," you say apologetically. Though you don't let go immediately, you loosen your grip more and more until you finally let go. And with your arms outstretched, you feel as if you're flying. The wind moves gently past your body and through your hair, and it isn't too loud or cold or uncomfortable. Even the light surrounding you is peaceful and calm. You discover you can easily move any part of your body. Speaking loudly, Asha says,
"The wind that's blowing now will lessen. The faster we fall, the more the atmosphere is decreasing. It will completely disappear in just a few minutes." As predicted, the air movement ceases and you feel as if you're lying in bed, perfectly supported, comfortable, and resting. We're still moving at a phenomenal speed, but the atmosphere is no longer the same. That's why there isn't any friction. Then, as if reading your mind, Asha adds, Don't worry, we'll slow down long before we reach our destination.
You understand the concept of the atmosphere disappearing, but from an experiential point of view, it feels as if you are no longer moving. At first you think you're dreaming, but then you realize you're wide awake and still falling through space. Yet it feels more like floating on a cloud with absolutely no sense of time. You feel deliriously happy and completely at peace. It's as if you don't have a care in the world.
Asha, can I ask you a question?
You say dreamily.
Of course.
Well, I had this experience where I don't know what happened exactly, if I left my body or I teleported, but I went back to a time when I was living in Russia. Nodding her head, Asha says,
I can see all of your Vatress lifetimes.
Oh, good, you say, grateful you don't have to explain anything in detail, but wishing you could see things the way Asha does. Well, here's the thing. I really loved it there. And if I'd had a choice and no family or friends, I wouldn't have wanted to come back. I just keep thinking about it all the time and wishing it was real. I mean, not that it isn't real, but it's not real now. It's not even possible now. And it makes me sad because the way the Vatress lived, well, it would solve every problem on Earth. But no one even knows they existed, and even if I tried to tell people, no one would listen.
You don't need anyone to listen. You can create that way of life all by yourself,
says Asha confidently. Oh, you don't understand. There are so many laws, and there's no such thing as free land, and no one lives that way anymore.
When you think about your life when you were a Vatress, how does it feel?
You think for a moment and say, I feel excited. It's sort of like when I've seen the first 2 parts of a trilogy, and I know I love it, and I love all the actors, and I've been waiting a whole year to find out what's going to happen. It's that kind of excitement. And even though I know it was thousands of years ago, I miss it. I really do. Why can't people live like that if they want to?
Anyone can live like that if they want to,
says Asha.
In fact, you're already starting to create that.
Well, maybe I'm teleporting or having unusually vivid dreams, but I'm pretty sure it's just in my imagination, you say, shaking your head.
You're not just imagining something,
says Asha.
You're feeling what it's like to be there, right?
You nod.
That means you're in the process of creating your own version of that reality.
But it no longer exists, you say, disheartened.
Okay, let's step back for a moment,
says Asha patiently.
This is the most important thing for you to remember. Your feelings create everything that happens to you, including the physical world around you. You first begin to understand the binary code when you feel safe or unsafe, and act accordingly. But the binary code also responds to the feeling of yes or no, or you could think of it as love or fear. So when you imagine your life as a Vatress, and you have that feeling of love and excitement that you described, you're telling the program, yes, I want to create this. And the more vividly and consistently you feel it, the more powerfully you cause it. But when you focus on your world, the people, the politics, the corporations, you see it as solid and unchanging. Your idea starts to feel hopeless, and then you worry that what you want can't possibly happen, or that it's not happening fast enough. Or maybe you're afraid that you're not doing it right. Well, when that happens, when you worry, you are actually causing the program to create more of what you don't want.
But if it's such an intelligent program, you say, exasperated. Why doesn't it understand what I don't want?
Because the program doesn't perceive right or wrong, good or bad. It only responds to focus. And that brings us back to Einstein,
says Asha, grinning.
Imagination is more important than knowledge. So be sure you are imagining what you want, not what you don't want. And remember, there is no one on earth who's powerful enough to stop your imagination. Of course, they can try to convince you that you're just making things up that don't matter, but it's up to you whether you believe that or not. Oh, and one more thing. You will never know how anything is going to happen. That's part of the fun and games of it all. So don't worry about it. Everything has a way of working itself out. And on that subject,
says Asha happily,
we're getting very close to our destination.
I'm feeling gravity again, you say excitedly. What's happening?
This won't be easy to understand because of what you've been taught. But we're entering the inner earth,
says Asha.
But that isn't quite accurate. This earth is more like a parallel earth.
What do you mean?
The continents here are exactly the same as your continents on the surface, except this inner earth is on a different dimension. It's a parallel reality. The atmosphere changes between dimensions and allows your body some time to adjust. It's a lot like deep-sea diving. Your body has to acclimate to the change in pressure. Between the two dimensions is what you might call a 0 point, which is the energy that remains when all other energy is removed from a system.
I don't understand, you say.
Imagine you're a fish that can breathe underwater with gills or air with lungs. Now pretend air is one dimension and water is another dimension. 0 point would be the moment where you could no longer use your lungs, but you can't use your gills yet either. So we've been moving through third-dimensional energy, and it was gradually resolving to 0 point, where there is no atmosphere. In fact, there is no air in 0 point.
Well, then how did we manage to breathe?
You gradually stopped needing to breathe. Didn't you notice? In this moment, your heart isn't beating either.
How can I possibly be alive? You say, then with a shock you add, am I still alive?
What do you think? Of course you're alive. In fact, don't you feel more alive than before?
You shake your head. I don't understand. I don't need to breathe. My heart doesn't need to beat. And I feel better than ever.
Think of it like this. Imagine you're lying in bed in your 3D world. As you stop falling asleep, your breathing slows down and so does your heartbeat. That would be like moving towards 0 point. And the next thing you know, you're in a parallel reality. What you would think of as your dream, where you have no heartbeat and you don't breathe.
But that's a dream.
Well, you've been educated to call it a dream. But what if you're a multidimensional being? What if you're actually a cosmic superhero, capable of coming and going between dimensions all the time?
A cosmic superhero? Oh, I'm just sure, you say with joking sarcasm.
I've been trying to tell you. Faulty education. You're going to be completely shocked when you discover the truth about your entire existence. And I don't mean the simple fact that you're playing a game. I'm referring to the most common, fundamental things you believe about life on Earth. But that discussion will come later.
says Asha, laughing.
Let's get back to what's happening. We've moved through 0 point, where you felt nothing, and now we're gradually acclimating to air and atmosphere on the other side of 0 point. It's as if you're now using your gills instead of your lungs. Does that help?
Well, sort of, you say, trying to get your head around the idea. Are you saying that this 0 point is shared by both dimensions?
Yes, that's it exactly. It's sort of like the nothing that's really everything.
You shake your head and sigh. Oh, I'm lost again.
Stop trying to use your mind. It's highly overrated,
says Asha, grinning.
Use your imagination as you think of the space, the nothing between worlds. Without it, nothing would make sense. Or the pause in music that makes a composition transcendent. It's the nothing that's everything. Or imagine the moment between breathing in and breathing out. So think of your journey from one dimension to another as an exhale followed by an inhale. They are different yet connected. One cannot exist without the other, and they both share the same 0 point. But the world of the inhale is quite different than the world of the exhale. Yes, the lungs are the same, but the function is completely different.
Was that analogy supposed to make it easier for me to understand? You say, now in somewhat of a panic, as a sheer grey cliff looms larger and larger in front of you. Never mind, it doesn't matter. How are we going to stop without crashing into that cliff? You yell anxiously.
Have you noticed that we've begun moving toward that cliff in a way that would be impossible without propulsion?
Says Asha calmly. Yes, how's that possible? You say nervously.
I'm simply using the power of my mind,
says Asha succinctly. You look even more petrified.
You can try it yourself. All you do is wish to move to the right and see what happens.
You wish to move to the right and are stunned to see the distance between you widen.
Now wish to circle around me,
says Asha. You obey, and you circle around Asha, laughing with delight. Then Asha pulls a crystal out of her pocket and throws it into the air. The crystal floats right alongside her, as if she was sitting down and had placed it on a table beside her.
Now call for the crystal. Tell it to come to you.
You do, and the crystal floats to you, landing right in the palm of your hand. Never in your life have you been more surprised than in that moment. Asha laughs and says,
Things are thoughts. That's why thoughts influence things. Or maybe it's thoughts influencing thoughts.
Are you just trying to confuse me? You say, laughing. You still have quite a distance to travel before arriving at your destination, so Asha says,
Think of how strongly you would feel if you were face to face with a grizzly bear. Now wish, with that level of intensity, that we move rapidly forward toward our destination. We'll unite our energies and do this together, which will be far more powerful than what we could ever do alone.
You look at where you're headed and intensely wish to be there. The distant cliff is suddenly so close, Asha yells,
Stop! We're coming in too fast! Make a wish that we're motionless.
You slow immediately and come to a halt, hovering in mid-air just 10 feet above the land.
Now wish to land slowly and with control,
says Asha, with her arms in the air, as if she is gracefully conducting a symphony through the last few measures. You move gently through the air and land softly on a grassy bluff. Looking around, you see a clear, broad river and a dense forest of evergreens off in the distance, with trees so magnificent and immense you think they must be thousands of years old. You reach out and excitedly hug Asha. Thank you, you say, relieved to be in one piece. Do you know how long we've been gone? Which way do we go now? Asha smiles sweetly and says, do you remember the agreement I shared with you? The one where I said I would save you only if you were facing certain death? Yes, you say tentatively, suddenly afraid to hear what Asha is about to say. Well, I've done that, and now you're perfectly safe. There is absolutely nothing and no one here that would harm you. No! Oh no! Please don't go! I'm begging you! Please stay with me! I can't do this without you! You plead desperately. Yes, you can, says Asha gently. Trust yourself. It's time for me to go, but listen to me carefully. There is nothing I've told you that you didn't already know. What do you mean? You carry everything you will ever need to know within yourself. Every aspect of the game is programmed into your DNA. As long as you have a body, you have the tools and the know-how to play the game. It's no different than the way you create your own dreams. What? You exclaim. Wait a minute, what are you talking about? Asha laughs and says, you create your dream world every night. Why is it so hard to believe that your avatar body creates and projects your waking world as well? You shake your head. Okay, that's way over my head. But even if that's true, it doesn't solve anything, you say frantically. And how does that tie into feelings running the program? Did you know researchers discovered that you could be dreaming you're sitting in a wheelchair, paralyzed? But if you wake up for just a moment, realize all is well, and fall back to sleep, you would still be sitting in the wheelchair, but you would no longer be paralyzed, says Asha, as if you are chatting while having tea and crumpets. Okay, that's interesting, you say slowly, but it doesn't really help. Well, actually, that concept works exactly the same way in the game. You just have to learn how to wake up. You narrow your eyes. Okay, I'll bite. How do you wake up, you say in finger quotes, while you're in the program? You just focus on what you want to be real, rather than what you think is real, says Asha pragmatically. Laughing, you say, well, that sounds very Pollyanna-ish. That would never work in my world. That's because you're still sitting in the wheelchair, believing that you're paralyzed. I'm giving you the answers, but I can't give you the faith to believe in what you don't see. Well, as they say, seeing is believing. Scientists don't believe in anything they can't see or prove, you say somewhat sanctimoniously. That's just how human beings are. You can't see love or prove its existence, but you believe that love exists, says Asha. And the more you believe in the existence of love, the more you see a loving world. As Pollyannaistic as this may sound, says Asha with a grin, to wake up, all you do in response to any problem is say to yourself, all is well. How could that possibly work? You say skeptically. Well, think about the dreamer who falls back asleep. In her dream, she's still sitting in the wheelchair. She still believes the dream is her true reality. But she subconsciously remembers feeling that all is well. That feeling,
The conviction that all is well actually causes the dreamer to experience an alternate reality or timeline where all is well. Remember, every possibility already exists. So not only is the dreamer no longer paralyzed in her dream, she has no memory of ever being paralyzed in the first place. So the rest of her dream is going to go quite a bit differently than the way it started.
So you're saying that all I have to do is say, all is well, you say doubtfully.
No matter what is happening,
Asha interjects. And I'll eventually find myself in another timeline, you say, unconvinced. It sounds nice, but it's totally unbelievable. For one thing, just saying all is well isn't the same as feeling that way.
Still, it works, whether you feel it or not, whether you believe it or not. It just works,
says Asha matter-of-factly.
But you'll never know unless you try. Besides, it's the first step to the new science you're going to discover.
Asha claps her hand over her mouth, then with a guilty look she winces, takes her hand away and says,
I wasn't supposed to tell you that.
What? Tell me what? You exclaim. Asha observes you for a moment and says,
Well, most players keep this type of thing secret from themselves until they discover it on their own. But if you're sure you want to know...
Yes, whatever it is, tell me. Excitedly, Asha says,
There's a new science that's ready to be discovered in the game. A science that will surpass all other sciences. And you signed up to be the pioneer of that science. Because only a player in a human avatar can make any changes on Earth.
Your mind is racing. You can imagine the slight possibility that some new discovery, a really simple one, might pop into your mind, even though you aren't very interested in scientific things. But the idea that you would discover a science that would surpass all other sciences, that's just crazy. Okay, you say hesitantly. What's it called?
Pollyannaology, the science of being excessively and unreasonably optimistic,
says Asha, smiling broadly. You burst out laughing. So I'm going to be Earth's first Pollyannaologist.
Yep, just think about it,
says Asha, laughing.
You don't need any funding. You don't need any proof of the truth.
And then, with a mysterious look in her eyes, she adds,
And you don't even need to mention it to anyone. That should make you pretty unstoppable.
You're not kidding, are you? You say.
Nope,
says Asha. You actually believe this will work, you say, unsure whether you should laugh or cry, or just feel sorry for Asha if she ever decides to actually play the game.
Absolutely. It will change your world, and it's simple.
You sigh.
How much easier can it be?
Says Asha.
Look, pretend you're the one dreaming you're in a wheelchair, paralyzed.
Okay, you say, knowing Asha won't stop until you join in her little game.
When you wake up, two things happen. You are no longer focused on the problem because you know for a fact that all is well. You're not worried either. No one worries when all is well, right?
I guess so, but I think you are the Pollyannaologist, Asha. I really do. Then rolling your eyes, you say, Okay, I give. How many times do I say it? Clapping her little hands excitedly, Asha says,
Keep repeating it until you are no longer focused on the problem.
But what if I don't really believe what I'm saying?
It requires no belief at all.
But what about thoughts and feelings creating my experiences? If I don't really feel that all is well, then how could it work? Whispering secretively, Asha says,
I just told you the cheat code to the entire game program. It bypasses everything.
Well, if it's really that simple, you say, hoping to call her bluff, why didn't you just tell me that in the first place?
What? And miss out on all the excitement you've been having? Where's your sense of adventure?
Says Asha as she begins floating into the air.
Wait!
You yell frantically. Don't leave me! I can't do this without you! I don't even know where to go! Asha continues floating upward and yells,
Go down to the river. Any boat will pick you up and give you a ride for free.
Free? You yell.
There is no money where you are. You'll see.
And then, like a mother rather than a 10-year-old, she adds,
Keep breathing. All is well.
Asha gently floats up past the cliff, and as she hovers over the abyss, she yells out,
Don't worry. Someone will be along to help you on your way. Sometimes you just have to rely on the kindness of strangers.
Then, pretending she's swimming through the air doing the backstroke, Asha says,
And don't forget, you're never alone. There's nothing I know that you don't know. You already know everything, just the way you like it.
Asha appears smaller and smaller until she completely disappears from your sight.